When you have your girls, you're never alone. You get together for coffee, maybe to work out, or just to laugh. We created Hey Girl just for you. Can't wait for you to join us.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Hey Girl. I'm your girl Kim with an E, and this is episode 92. Y'all, we are in the countdown to the 100th episode, and I'm so excited that you are here with us. So, if you're joining us for the first time, I want to let you know that Hey Girl is a safe space where you can share your experiences and be affirmed. Let's face it, life can be complex and sometimes overwhelming. That's why we believe in the power of conversation, because knowing you're not alone is what will help you get through. Well, come on in and say hello in the comments. Let me know that you are here. I'm so glad that you are joining us. Please remember to hit the like button and be sure to share this live because it's going to be a great show. So, here we are at the end of the month, and I can't believe it's already almost over. As you may know, we have been focusing all month on the theme of write the vision. And I'm wondering how it has been for you. How have you started off 2022? Did you write the vision and are you walking out the vision that you have written? Have you been courageous enough to do that? I don't know if you were with us last week when we had Elaine Kennedy here. It was amazing and so motivating. Her company, My Vision is Clear, was so perfect and so perfectly aligned with this theme. And her words were so encouraging and so motivating. If you didn't see that episode, go back and take a look. She talks about how she did that very thing in her own life and what it involved. And now part of her work is to help others to do the same thing. Definitely go back and look. But really, all month, we've had an amazing lineup of guests talking about the various ways that they have found this idea of writing the vision to be so important. And certainly, I believe that it is. So let me know if you're ready to begin this year with purpose. Say yes in the comments. I mean, what else is there but purpose? And we should all be walking in it. And, I actually believe this theme, Write the Vision, is particularly important because I actually believe that writing literally is the best tool for clarifying our next step and how we can walk in that purpose. And I actually share specific ways that you can do that in my new book. How many of you have picked up your book already? Trust the process, how writing can help you get unstuck. If you haven't yet, definitely check it out. It's on Amazon, and I think it could potentially be a blessing for you. I certainly wish it to be a blessing, particularly as it aligns with this month's theme of writing the vision. And I think it's a really good way to start the year. So if you haven't picked it up yet, go ahead and do so. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Just Kim newsletter. Every week, my goal is to motivate you and encourage you to keep going, to keep pushing, to do the thing, whatever it is. And yeah, every now and then I'll send you a freebie. Of course, we have our monthly calendar. I'll have to do a new one for February. I can't believe we're already at the end of January, but definitely sign up. I try to provide you with all kinds of goodies, and you can get access to them if you become a subscriber. So I am really excited, as I've said already, about this month's theme. And I still want you, if you haven't already, to tell me in the comments if you are fulfilling your purpose, if you are walking in your purpose, if you have written the vision for your own life. And if so, what does that look like? What does that look like for you? I love that we are wrapping up this month with the two guests that I have for us today, particularly because this theme of writing the vision is so appropriate to their work and what they are going to share with us today. And I happen to really love these two. We've been friends for years. They're pretty much like family. So Paul and Claire Nixon are siblings who are both lifelong educators. They have dedicated their careers to helping students develop and maintain a love for education and growth in their lives, not just in the classroom. As business partners, they bring their sense of humor, intelligence, creativity, complementarity, and collaborative spirit to the table in a unique way that promotes continual learning and development. Together, Paul and Claire have written articles, books, worked on podcasts, and produced a YouTube channel on a variety of topics, including emotional intelligence, cultural intelligence, critical thinking, racial reconciliation, and academic success on all levels. The essence of their work as educational consultants is making complex information simple and accessible to everyone. Their new book, God is a Person, Discovering God for Yourself, is written to help regular people develop and strengthen a personal relationship with God. I love that. So let's take a look before I bring them on at a clip of Paul and Claire giving us a sneak peek into the book.
Hi, we are Claire and Paul Nixon of CP Nix. In our new book, God is a Person, we have a chapter called Eden is a Playground. It's a chapter in which we talk about how God is a fun-loving person.
One of the things we say in this chapter says this: the garden, talking about the Garden of Eden, was to be especially cherished by man, so God took care in planting it.
So this comes from the text in the Bible, Genesis chapter 2, verse 15. I have the New Living Translation here, and this is what it says. It says, "The Lord God placed the man in the Garden of Eden to tend and watch over it." What we're talking about here is God being deliberate, God being intentional, God doing the thing he did for a particular reason. We talked earlier about how God spoke trees into existence, right? He just said, let there be trees, and now there's like 80,000 kinds of trees all over the world because God's word is creative. But God didn't speak the garden.
Right.
God planted the garden. And then he placed the man in the garden. Very deliberate.
Right. So we see during the creation week, we see God speaking, and as a result of those words, things just are there now. But then we see a change in what he's doing. He's using his hands now, right? He's planting something. He's getting dirty. Like, have you ever planted in a garden before? By the end of it, there's soot under your nails. Your knees have all kind of dirt on it. So he's getting dirty. He's getting down in the dirt.
Did God's knees get dirty? That's an interesting idea.
Have you ever kneeled on dirt?
I've kneeled on dirt, but I'm not.
What happens when you stand up?
It's just.
What
really
happens when you stand up?
My knees are dirty.
Thank you.
But I just think it's interesting. No, I'm not disagreeing with you. I just think it's interesting the idea that God is willing to get dirty.
Yes.
For us.
Have you ever tried to clean under your nails when there's like mud? Like, it's hard.
It's really hard.
You know what I'm saying? So the Lord sacrificed.
How does God clean his fingernails?
That's an excellent question. Let's contemplate that at cpnix.com. Just kidding. We get into there.
Please help me welcome my guests, Paul and Claire Nixon.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you so much.
Y'all are so silly.
It's so much fun working with Paul.
Just having fun, man.
I mean, seriously, y'all are hilarious. So welcome. I'm so glad you're here, and I'm really, really proud of the things that you all are doing, and I can't wait for you to share more about it. But first of all, let's just introduce you to our audience. Tell us who you are and where you're from, and how are you related? Because as I said, y'all are siblings, not married. Let's make sure that's clear.
We still get between us, right? To make it clear that we're separate people. We're like different.
Right.
You're in the middle of the picture.
Right. Yeah, because y'all look exactly alike.
So my name is Clarise Nixon. I live in Chattanooga, Tennessee. I'm not from here. I'm kind of from everywhere, but currently I live in Chattanooga, Tennessee. And yes, I am Paul's sister. I am his sister.
Let's make that clear. And what about you, Paulie?
My name is Paul Nixon. I live in Huntsville, Alabama. We're actually a New York family originally. So I claim New York as my home. But live in Huntsville, work in higher education, and Claire is my younger sister. I'm the older. Claire's my younger sister.
Yes, she's the baby.
Yeah,
and it's so funny. Huh?
I said I'm the middle child. She's the baby.
Yes. So some of you out there probably know Pastor John Nixon Sr. and then John Nixon Jr., both of them very well-known preachers and pastors. And so these two are the other ministers in the family that maybe some people don't recognize are there because, the preachers get all the attention, but everyone has their own unique ministry. And you guys are certainly a gifted family. And it's funny, I've known you for a long time, and you talk about Claire being the baby. I literally remember her when you all came to Oakwood. She was like 12.
Yeah. Yes, I
Like,
was
how
tiny.
old am I right now? Like, seriously. But anyway, you've grown up so much. No,
Thank
but
you, thank you.
I think she was
it's
actually
just cool
12.
that we can be friends now. Say what?
I think she was actually 12. We really. I
No,
think
I
she
was
actually
12.
No, seriously. She was
Yeah.
12.
Yeah.
Like, it blows me away. I'm like, why are we friends? I don't know.
Right.
It's crazy how that age gap just shrinks when you become an
Right.
adult. But it's also cool that we actually have something in common, being English majors and working
Right.
as academics. So that also has brought us together in a lot of ways. Had a lot of fun putting a conference together a few years ago.
Yes. I'll never forget it.
Anyway, yes, it was memorable. But
Yes.
but yeah, so we have a lot of fun, and these two in particular have a lot of fun. And so let's just talk first about, because our theme is Write the Vision, let's talk about the place that writing has in your lives and why it is important. Let's start there.
I think I have a long journey with writing. When I was in middle school, I think I really started to do really nerdy things like carry those little tiny composition books. I don't know if you guys remember the little tiny composition books.
Yeah,
I used to have
yeah.
one of those and a pen in my back pocket wherever I went, and the book in my other back pocket. So that's what I was doing when I was 12, when you met me, Kim. So I used to
I should
write,
have known then that we would
right,
be kindred
exactly.
spirits.
I used to write a lot of poetry and short stories in middle school, and then, I became an adult and started having responsibilities and didn't write for a long time, and then
Mm,
started teaching writing. Um, and actually, when I started going to therapy regularly, I started journaling again. Journaling
mm,
was something that I had done sporadically as a kid, but
mm,
it never really stuck. And
mm,
about 3 or 4 years ago, it started sticking because I just
mm,
had a plan for it. I was trying to work some things
mm.
out and work some things through.
Yeah,
And so, yeah, now I journal. And then of course, all my work with Paul has some kind of writing, creative writing,
yeah.
professional writing, academic writing. I do all sorts of writing with Paul. So
Have you guys always been as close as you are now, or did you become closer as you all grew up?
I want Paul to answer that first.
Claire, um, not always. Not always. Claire wasn't always treated well in our house growing up. But actually, I think you know what happened, if I remember correctly, and Claire, correct me if I'm wrong. When John went away to college,
Mm,
that's when Claire and I really, really got tight, and then
hmm
it's never waned since then. We got tight
Right.
pretty
And what
quickly.
is
I
the
mean,
age difference? What's the age difference between all of you?
Claire and I are 4 years apart.
Hmm.
And what about you and John?
John is a year and a half older than me.
Okay, so it makes sense. You guys were pretty close since you were close in
Yeah,
age. Yeah.
yeah. So John and I were like bosom buddies growing up, right? Like we're super tight. But then John went away to college. He was a year ahead of me, so it was my senior year of high school.
Mm-hmm.
And then Claire and I just kind of we kind of ended up being together, I guess, a little bit more by default to begin with, and we found out we just kind of really had a lot in common, and we were very much
Mm,
cut from the same cloth. I would say, and Claire, correct this as well. I would say that Claire and I are probably more similar than John and I
mm-hmm.
are in terms of our
Yeah, I think so.
personalities.
I mean, yeah, the way y'all interact, it's just like,
Yeah, exactly. Which we
and,
started to realize once again when John left, right? John left, and obviously John
Mhm.
we're still tight, but and John's tight with
Yeah,
everybody. John, John's tight with everybody he's ever
right.
met. So,
Yeah.
when he went away, Claire and I got tight, and so that would have been like the year before we moved here. So we've been I would say
Hmm.
this close for 25 years or so.
Yeah.
Yeah, It's interesting how that dynamic shifts when someone leaves home.
Yeah.
Poor Claire. She was the only girl, and those knucklehead boys
No,
probably gave her a
don't say poor
fit.
Claire. Because I was the only girl, I didn't have to share anything. So I'm not sorry for
Oh,
myself.
okay.
That was okay.
I feel that. Okay. So what about you, Paul? Because we're talking about John.
Right.
What place has writing had in your life, and why? Why has it been important for you?
Writing has always been, as long as I can remember, writing has been extremely important to me, and I've wanted to be a writer since I was a little kid. I wanted to be a writer
Mhm.
before I knew I wanted to be a writer, and
Mhm.
I've considered myself a writer as a person. I've thought of myself as a writer since probably like middle school. Um,
Mhm.
I write because I have to be alive,
Mm.
right? And I teach because I have
Mhm.
to make money. You know what I'm saying?
Mm.
So like
Mhm.
if
Yeah.
I said for a long time, if I could support myself financially through writing, I wouldn't do anything else ever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I've actually been
feel
pretty
that.
deliberate about trying to make that happen in the last maybe 5 years or so. Just trying to
Yeah.
really just practically actualize my writing. And I have a number of different ventures going on, and all of them are based in writing, at least for me. I should say that differently. My entry point into everything that I do is from writing. So I do
Yeah.
stuff. I do stuff with screen, television, and film. I do stuff with the stage, writing and
Mhm.
directing for plays and stuff like that. Obviously, we published a book, short stories, articles, editing. Um, I own a couple of small companies. My entry point to everything is through writing. It's because I'm a writer that I'm
Mhm.
able to do any of the things that I do. So it's really, really
Mhm.
central to I feel like who I am as a person.
Yeah, I definitely feel that. What I love, though, about what each of you has said is the different ways that writing functions in our lives. So, certainly, Claire, I can identify with the therapeutic use
Right.
of writing, getting it out and, in order to figure it out. But
Mhm.
also, as a writer myself, understanding that sort of living, breathing, like feeling like my best self when I'm doing it, and only working because I have to,
Right.
in other things. So I definitely can identify with all of that. But I also am interested in this figurative idea of writing for those who are watching and they're like, no, I'm not a writer, I can't relate. The fact that we in a way writing is still relevant because it's also the act of determining our next step, or the writing of our lives, kind of thing, like the script for our life. And I'm curious to know, for each of you, what has been the greatest challenge in figuring out God's purpose for your life, and then how to walk in that purpose?
Um, I'll go first since I smiled when you asked that question. The biggest challenge for me, I think, in finding God's purpose for my life was just searching. I knew what I wanted for myself, and
Mhm.
so that's what I was headed toward for years and years. And it wasn't until I got tired and frustrated from lack of success trying to walk my own path that I was like, you know what, maybe I should
Mhm.
tap on the Lord's shoulder and just see what he thinks.
What he says.
You think?
And then and it's basically when I failed on my own that
Mm.
I started to really even think seriously about what God's purpose was for my life.
Mhm.
And
Mm.
of course, once I made that decision, everything just kind of flowed from there. So I really just needed to be
Mm.
obedient to the Lord's voice that was around my life.
Mhm.
And once
Mhm.
I did that, my purpose is clear. And I think actually my purpose is twofold. I think it's education, and I've never said this out loud. I think the other part is ministry. I
Okay.
It's literally the first time I ever said that out loud. So here we are. I,
Well,
but
ladies,
Safe
it's
space.
a Hey Girl first. Thank you for
it's
letting us
yeah,
get this
yeah.
exclusive.
And neither of those things. I teach in the classroom right now. I'm a classroom educator,
Mhm.
but once I leave the classroom, I'll never stop being an educator, even if I'm not in a traditional education setting. Education will
Mhm.
always be a call in my life. And also, even though I'll never be a pastor of a church, thank you, Jesus, because I don't want that, I'll always be a minister. And my education and ministry are always going hand in hand through everything that I do. So my purpose is very
Mhm.
clear now, but it definitely took some years of frustration and not understanding why I wasn't moving forward with what I wanted for me to figure that out.
Mm. What about you, Paul?
So I've never had a difficult time, um, I guess, walking in the purpose that I was sure God had for me. I
Mm.
wouldn't call that part of my journey a challenge. Once I'm clear on what He wants me to do, I'm okay with going and doing it, regardless of consequences. My problem has been asking in the first place, right? So, so
Mm.
kind of similar to Claire, right? I know I know what I'm good at. I know what I want. I have these
Mm.
goals for myself, these aspirations, and I'm also very hard headed. So it's like, yeah, so it's like when you have opportunity and you have talent, you can just kind of make some stuff happen for yourself, and you might find
Mhm.
yourself on a particular path that God never intended you to be on. And for somebody
Mhm.
like me, I'm not the tap on the shoulder, hey, you're going the wrong way kind of guy. I'm the throw off a cliff, you got to die almost kind of guy. In order to turn. That's who
Wow.
I am,
And
right? So
he's not kidding. That's like
that's
literal
what happened.
Right.
flying off a
That's,
cliff.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's what actually happened. So so
it
for
did.
me,
Yeah.
once that happened for me, it was
Mm.
really interesting because my activities, I guess, or my ultimate goals didn't really change, but my reasons
Mm.
changed dramatically,
Mhm.
right? So
Mhm.
so my motivation was changed just massively. So I wanted to write, I wanted to teach, I wanted to do all the stuff that I'm doing, right? But then
Mhm.
all my
Mhm.
reasoning was wrong. It was all about gathering, it was all about taking. So
Mm.
I had to kind of reverse that and be like, okay, I have to do this stuff so that I can provide, so I can give, so I can be other centered. Um, so yeah.
Yeah. So for those of you who don't know, Paul was in a horrific car accident with his brother and sister-in-law and scared the crap out of all of us because we thought we were going to lose him. But God is amazing, and he survived and went through a lot, went through a long recovery. But yeah, that's interesting, Paul, that was a turning point for you in a way. Um, so the difference before the accident and after the accident is what? In a
Motivation.
word? Okay.
Motivation,
Yeah.
yeah. What, because like I said,
Hmm.
what I'm doing isn't that different from what I envisioned I would be doing.
Yeah.
But why I'm doing it is totally different. I mean, completely
Hmm.
different. You know,
Hmm.
uh, I
And
teach,
was
and
that
I,
an
I
immediate
mhm.
was
Go
that
ahead.
an immediate thing, or was it a gradual thing after, like, was it a gradual realization, or did you wake up from the coma and go, okay, I got to do this different?
It was incredibly gradual. It was like
Yeah.
almost a decade.
Mm.
Yeah, it was unbelievably
Hmm.
gradual. So like I
Yeah.
even started my career still not sure what I was doing or why I was doing what I was doing. But I
Hmm.
was 23 or 24. I was like 24. How long can you live with your parents? I got to start making some money. I have this degree. Let me go ahead and put it into use. So I took a job, right?
Hmm.
That's kind of how it started. And while I'm working,
Hmm.
I really owe my first 2 or 3 years of students an apology for for the kind of teacher that I was. But um, yeah, so while I'm working, I'm kind of piecing these things together, and then God took me to rock bottom and kind of built me back up, and then kind of took me to rock bottom again almost a second time, um,
Hmm.
and just told me he actually told me to go to Korea and kind
Hmm.
of give up everything that I had started to
Hmm.
build. And
Hmm.
again, like I said, walking in the purpose hasn't been difficult once the message has been clear. I heard him very clearly say go to Korea, so that was very easy to do. But at the same time, it was suddenly I'm in Korea, and you know what I'm saying it's just a weird it was a weird situation. So yeah, I had to go
Easy
through
to
all that.
do, but not easy, right? I mean,
Yeah,
huh?
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
And Claire, last week we were talking on the show about hearing God's voice, and I'm kind of hearing that in what you guys are saying in these moments when you made a change in your life, or felt you needed to turn in a different direction because you felt like God was leading you. What did that feel like? I mean, are we talking audible voice? Are we talking deep impression? Like, how do you know that God is leading you to do this or to do that?
For me, I don't hear an audible voice. I think it's more a deep impression, and also circumstances. I in my prayer life, I actually ask the Lord not to give me options, which sounds strange, but when I have too many options, I get confused, and then
Mhm.
I don't know what I want if I have 10 options in front of me. And
Yeah.
so if I'm trying to make a decision about something, I'll ask the Lord to very clearly close doors and very clearly open other doors,
Hmm.
so that I know what to do. And so he's spoken to me through circumstances, but also I've had powerful moments in my life. One in particular sticking out to me, where I was sitting on the couch watching TV or something. And I don't remember what I was eating, but I suddenly had I've never told this story before either. What is it with you, Kim, in this show? Anyway, I suddenly very, like, in my body, physiologically, I felt like my parents were praying for me in that moment. And
Wow.
I suddenly realized that I was alive because of my parents' prayers. So I don't
Mm.
know what my parents' prayers, like what kind of, I'm going to be a little morbid, but I don't know what kind of death my parents' prayers saved me from. But in
Mercy.
that moment, the Lord was saying to me, your parents are praying for you right now. And I was just thanking the Lord. I was like, thank you, Jesus, for my parents. Because, when you're born into a family, you have no control over what family you're
Yeah.
born into. But thank God I
Yeah.
was born into a praying family, because I know for a
Yeah.
fact that their prayers on numerous occasions have certainly saved
Mm.
me from myself, have saved me from others, have saved me from consequences of my own actions, have saved me from all sorts of things.
Mm.
So I would say deep impressions and circumstances, I think, and also other Christian people in my life. I think the Lord speaks to me through other people as well. I just have to
Mhm.
make it a point to listen, but for
Yeah.
sure, I think He speaks to me through other people too.
Wow. Wow. That's powerful.
Hmm.
Yes. Thank God for praying parents.
Hmm. For
Um,
sure.
so, so you guys, and Lord knows Paul is here because of prayers, because we've
Right.
all were covering him, like literally, praying him back to life. But so you guys talked about your relationship and how close you've become, and you've begun doing a lot of work together. So we're going to talk about the book in a minute, but let's talk about some of the other things that you two have been led to work on together. What are some of those things, and what is it like working with your brother, and what is it like working with your sister? How does that work?
Go ahead, Paul.
I'll answer the second question first. Working together was actually pretty easy for me. Oh, Claire's nodding, so I guess it's for her too. But yeah, it's pretty easy. Like I said before, we're actually quite similar um, in how we approach things. But the cool thing is we're also very different in some very, very meaningful ways. But I have such a high level of respect for Claire's intellect and Claire's decision-making processes, and Claire's um, sort of intellectual humility. Like like she's like I feel like I can listen to Claire, right? So
Mhm.
I don't have to be the expert all the time. I don't have to be right all the time.
Mhm.
And because we go back so far, right? We're literally, I remember the day she was born, right? So it's like we
Yeah.
don't have to be careful how we talk to each other either. That's the other thing.
Mhm.
So if we're in a session,
Mhm.
we live in different cities, so most of our work is on Zoom. We're online together, and we're working on something like on a shared document. And I'll be writing something, and Claire can just say, "No, I don't like that," and change it, or don't say anything and just change it, or vice versa. She can write something, and I'll just go back behind her and just change it. You know what I mean? And
Mhm.
it's very, very efficient. There's like no ego. I mean,
Mhm.
it's works well in my opinion. I mean, it's really, and very, very fulfilling too. Like we always end up
Mhm.
learning so much from each other in those
Mhm.
interviews, in those exchanges. So it's really great working with my sibling. I wish everybody had siblings that are as close as me, Claire, and John are, because it's amazing
Yeah.
having a
Hmm.
tight knit family that actually we don't just love each other, we like each other. You know what I mean? So it's
Right.
really, really
Yeah.
to have that dynamic.
Yeah, it is awesome to see that. I'm so jealous. So, Claire, were you going to add to that?
Well, Paul said he was going to answer the second question, which means he didn't answer the first. So can you remind me what the first question was?
Oh, I wanted you to talk about some of the things that you all have done prior to this book.
So I think we started writing together in either 2017 or 2018. I recall having a very difficult situation at work that I felt like I couldn't really talk to anyone about, but I had something weighing on my heart. And so I asked Paul to write a series of articles with me on racial reconciliation. And I think that's when we started working together and reading together. And from there, we published some articles in, I don't even remember, Spectrum and something else
Regional
at the
Voice.
time. Yeah, maybe it was Regional Voice magazine. And then I think is when we started to discover, oh, we actually do this really well together. Let's do more things. And so we just started doing more things. And Paul mentioned earlier that he does stage plays and stuff for TV and movies. And so anything that Paul, I feel like, is working on, whether it's creative or otherwise, sometimes he'll just ask me to come on board. And I don't even need to know what the project is. My answer is always going to be yes, just because I really enjoy working with him. And it's really, really, really a lot of fun. Like, it's really a lot of fun. So
I don't
anything
know.
that he ever
I don't
asks
know
me
how
to
y'all get
do,
anything done.
Right?
I don't know how y'all get anything done because I'm sure there's just jokes constantly.
we both, when we started focus, we can focus. But
So
even
Claire's
in our
actually, Claire's
focus,
actually
there's still
forgetting
foolishness
something.
happening.
Claire's actually forgetting something. We wrote a short film together in like 2011 or 2012.
We
Remember that?
did?
Yeah.
No.
We wrote a short film together and we shot it. Remember? We filmed it in Massachusetts. You don't remember this?
What's it called?
Unbelievable.
No.
She doesn't even remember. I'm telling her about it. She doesn't remember. We made some pretty drastic mistakes during filming, so we never finished it. But we wrote
Oh,
it
okay.
and we filmed it, but we didn't film some scenes that were necessary to complete the story, so it's not even a whole movie. But yeah, that was like 2011
Oh.
maybe. 2011.
Okay.
There was
Yeah.
a snow. I remember now because there was a snowstorm
It was a
happening
snowstorm.
in
Yeah.
Massachusetts while we were shooting. I remember now.
Yeah.
That was fun
We got
too.
I was
snowed in.
like,
We got snowed in
Claire,
with
the
our
fact
cast.
that it didn't even
That was a
like,
long time ago. Yeah. So his point is we have a long history of working together, and
yeah,
I think the best is yet to come because now we're actually both fully realized adults who have created a company together for this reason. So there's
yeah,
this definitely certainly some projects in the future that we're going to continue to work on together.
yeah. Well, I feel like it's like writing. You got to get all the rough drafts out of the way
Right.
before you get to the polished piece. So all of that other stuff is part of the process.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
So, what led you to write this particular book?
Paul
So
asked me, and I said, "Yep."
right.
Okay.
I'll
So, is
start
Paul
because
the idea guy? Is that what I'm hearing?
I think he's the idea guy for the book, but since I've started writing creatively again, I actually find myself having tons and tons of ideas.
Mm.
Sometimes ideas that are waking me up at night. Like I can't go back to
Mm.
sleep until I write it
I
down because my memory is terrible. So if I don't write something down, it's just going to be gone now. But
Mhm.
yeah, but go ahead, Paul.
yeah, so I actually started the book on my own, and then I brought Claire on after a little while. I was just I was kind of burdened with this idea that am I allowed to be honest on here? Should I just say what I'm thinking?
Please,
Okay.
absolutely.
I was just
Yeah.
kind of burdened. This is a couple of years ago. I was just kind of burdened with the idea that I just felt like a lot of churches are kind of counterproductive in what they're supposed to be trying to do, and I see a lot of
Okay.
people leaving religion, leaving church, leaving
Mhm.
Christianity, and that kind of thing. And they they leave with a bad taste in their mouth because of some negative experience in the church or whatever. And I feel
Mm.
like leading with your religion is a bad idea. I think it makes more sense to lead with the person who you're connected to, namely God, Jesus Christ, right? So if you start your interaction with another person, hey, I'm a Christian, this is what I believe. That's probably not a good idea. It's probably a better idea to say, how can I help you, or let me love you, or something like that. And that's really a demonstration of what Christ is about in our lives, or at least what he's supposed to be, right? So sort of, I speak at different places sometimes, whatever. So these ideas started coming together, and every time I would make a presentation, something from that realm of thought would come into my presentation somehow. So I started kind of collecting these ideas a little bit, and then I just felt like I needed help, and pretty much a no-brainer at this point. This is like 2019, 2020, something like that. Maybe 2020. 2020, yeah. So by that point, it was a no-brainer. I'm not wondering who I'm going to ask. It's like I'm calling Claire, you know what I mean, and say, hey, what do you think about joining this project? I'm working on this book. What do you think? And to actually be honest with you, Claire works very hard, right? So we all work as professors, so we know what it's like in English departments. I don't know how hard you work, Kim, but Claire works way harder than me. It's not even close. Not even close. So the semester had started, and for me, fall semester tends to be tougher than spring semester, usually. The semester had already started when I called Claire, and so I thought she might say no. I thought she might say I don't have time. I knew she wouldn't say I'm not interested, but I thought she might say I don't have time. But I called her anyway. I was like, hey, working on this thing, what do you think? And she was like, yeah, let's do it. Jumped on. So
Nice. So tell me about the book.
Paul mentioned earlier that working together is fulfilling, and I think I do work hard, but working with him it gives me more than it takes from me. And so I always feel energized. And we have a standing writing appointment every Friday. So every Friday afternoon, whatever it is that we're working on, we're meeting to work on that thing. And it energizes me and gets me ready for the next week. And so now I feel like Paul is part of my therapy now. Like I can't not write with Paul. It's too ingrained in my lifestyle. So
wow. That's so cool. That's so cool. So the book is, give me some sense of what you do in the book then. I love the concept. I think it's absolutely so important, as you said, because religion and relationship are two totally different things. So
right.
talk about
So the book focuses on the relationship part. It actually doesn't focus on religion at all. And we don't focus on religion on purpose because we say in our introduction that religion is one of the filters through which we see the world. And sometimes our filters are dirty and distort things. And so in the book, we're trying our best to show who God is just from the Bible and the Bible alone. So we're not speaking through a particular religion or about a particular religion. We're just talking about God and how to relate to him, no matter where you are in your life, no matter if you're a religious person, no matter if you belong to a religion or have left a religion or had good experiences with religion or bad, it doesn't matter. None of that matters because God is a person and he is accessible and available and waiting for each of us just to start an intimate relationship with him. And so for me, this book is just about just that foundation of starting to see God as a person. And when you see God as a person, at least for me, it made it easier to have a relationship with him just because it brought him closer to me. It makes it feel like I can call, we say all the time, call the Lord, but what does that mean? You know what I'm saying? But now I actually feel like, just like I can pick up the phone and call my best friend or call Paul, God is available all the time to hear me when I'm like literally calling his name. And so we just wanted to strip away everything and just look at God through the Bible without any kind of filter attached to it at all.
I love that. So you mentioned before the show, when I was talking to you about the theme, we're talking about writing the vision and walking out our purpose and so on. You said there was a chapter in the book that really ties into that. Can you share a little bit?
So we have a chapter. I don't know what chapter it is, actually. We have a chapter on Christian artistry. It's actually called Christian artistry. and we talk about how
Mm-hmm.
God is a creative person. So in each chapter we use a Bible text as kind of a foundation. So our foundational text for this particular chapter is the text in Habakkuk that says, "Write the vision, make it plain."
Yeah.
Um, so that's the same. I don't know if that's where you took your actual theme from, but that's the wording that's
Mm-hmm.
in that part of the Bible. So we actually use that as our foundation, and we talk about what it means to write the vision as a Christian, right?
Mm-hmm.
So for me, and I don't want to speak for everybody, but for me, and it appears in the book. This idea appears in the book. It's important because again, I'm hard headed, right? It's important for me to recognize that the vision did not originate with me,
Mm-hmm.
not my vision.
Mm-hmm.
God gave
Right.
me a vision. My responsibility is to write it down,
Yes.
which for me totally changes my approach to my creative
Yep.
work. Right? It's not I have to
Mm-hmm.
go think of something to do. It's what has God given me to share.
Yeah.
Different sense of responsibility. That's kind of how I thought. That's kind of how I think of it. So that concept is in the book in a way. So we thought it was a good fit for sure for your theme this month.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. We've been talking about that all month. And yes, that's absolutely where the idea for this month came. And I think that is really, really important, that distinction about writing the vision that each of you has also said you did in your own life. Like you had your own ideas, but at some point you had to listen to what God had in mind for you and the difference that that makes. And so I feel like that can be so freeing
For
for
sure.
people because that's how you get stuck, that's how you get frustrated, or even if you're doing okay, you may still feel like something's missing. And so, to help people understand that that may be the reason that you're trying to do it
Right.
yourself. You're trying to write your own vision. Yeah, God is the person that can make the difference.
Exactly. And, Paul mentioned
Mhm.
his hard-headedness earlier, and I have that same exact hard-headedness. I might have it a little more than he does. Um, so it can be freeing, absolutely. But I think for
Mhm.
me, before it was freeing, it was actually painful because I had to go through a process of mourning what I wanted for myself
Mm.
before I could replace what I wanted for myself for what God wanted for me. And
Mm.
I was all for what God wanted for me. I didn't want to reject it, but at the same time, doing this
Mhm.
thing over here meant I wasn't doing that thing over there. And this whole time I've been trying
Mhm.
to get that thing over there. So I had to kind of go through a bit of a painful mourning process to mourn that thing over there
Mhm.
before I could say, you
Yeah.
know what, I'm going to go fully into this thing that God has for me. I'm going to be obedient. I'm going to be obedient. I'm going to be obedient. Fine, fine,
Period.
fine. I'm gonna be obedient. And then that's when the freedom came, when I kind of got over that hurdle and kind of that got through
Mhm.
that grieving process.
Yeah. Interesting.
Hmm.
Because some people listening might go, well, I don't want to go through that. I want to hold on to what I want. I don't want to have to grieve the loss of it and just do what the Lord says and blah blah. It may sound like walking walking the long mile, the green mile or something. But
I mean,
talk
it
to us
is.
about.
It is, yeah.
But is that it though? Like,
No,
okay, that's not
it's
it.
it's pain for a higher purpose. It's not pain just because. I mean, anything that you lose, there's going to be a little bit of pain there because you're losing something. But the thing that you're gaining is vastly more powerful. It's fitted exactly for you. Like
Mm-hmm.
I started to learn more about myself and why God created certain things in me once I decided to be obedient to the vision and the calling that He had on my life. And for me, that was a big deal because I've always been interested in who am I? And
Mm-hmm.
so once I decided to once I decided to focus more on the name that God calls me rather than the name that I was trying to create for myself, that's when I
Mm-hmm.
figured out who I am. And so
Mm.
there's definitely something much more powerful on the other side of it. But I just wanted to be transparent and say sometimes you have to go through a little bit of pain before you get to that praise part. And that's okay. I mean, you're a human being. but keep
Mm-hmm.
going through the pain. Don't stop at the pain. Now that's important.
Yeah.
Don't
Yeah.
sink in the pain. You know what I'm saying? Don't let the pain
Yep.
take over your life. Like, but process that pain and walk through that pain. And the Lord is going to help you do that. And He's going to bring you to the other side of what He has for you.
I love it. That's a
Mhm.
word.
Preaching, man.
So I'm telling you. So you don't need a church. You still preaching.
Please don't give me a church. That'd be a bad idea.
That is so good, though. That is so good. So what would you? I mean, I feel like you kind of already said it, but um, is there any word of advice then for those who are struggling to write the vision for their own lives, or figuring out, what it is that God is calling them to do, or um, maybe resisting that in some way?
Buy our book. That's always my advice. No.
Shameless plug.
Right. But all jokes aside, though, there are resources out there, and in our book we try to provide some. But even if you don't buy our book, there are resources out there that are designed to help. Um, there are resources out there that are designed to help people take these kinds of steps in their lives, right? So in our book, we frame them as practical application, right? So we have, at the end of each chapter, we have a few steps for practical application for what we talk about in that chapter. In other words, this is how you actualize this thing we theorized about just now, right? Do these
Good.
try these things. Again, there's a lot
Yeah.
of resources out there. Sometimes the resource is a person, sometimes the resource is an organization, sometimes the resource is a book. It might be a website, it might be a blog. But I would say to somebody who's struggling to try to make it happen, tap into one of those resources, right? Find a person, or pick up a book, or search, or do a Google search or something like that. Talk to somebody who you feel like is doing the thing that they should be doing, and ask them how they went about their business. But I think getting practical and trying to tap into a resource to help you to really come to terms with how to do the thing for yourself is really, really powerful. And then the other thing, this is where it gets hard. Once you find out what to do, sit down and do it.
Right.
It's easier said than
Yeah.
done, but sit down and do it.
Yeah, it is. Those of us who are writers, we know, if you want to be a writer, get your butt in the seat, right?
You gotta sit down and write. You have to sit down and
Can't
write.
can't just talk about it. Yeah.
Yeah, which is like Claire mentioned, we have a standing appointment, and like I said, when we started writing this book together, the semester had started, so we're both working full time. I have a 2-year-old son. He was a newborn at the time. He was a few months old, and we don't do childcare, partially because of COVID, but partially because we don't trust anybody. But so my wife was working full time at the time. So we're splitting work and childcare, and on top of that, I got to write the book. This is another thing, right? So
Right.
we just treated it like work. So I scheduled it. I put it on my wife and I share a calendar. I put it on our shared calendar. And when something else came up, I got something to do at that time. And I was sitting here in this chair, looking at these screens and writing the book with Claire for a year. That's the only way to do it. You got to sit down and do it.
Yeah. You're right.
So discipline and consistency are key. And remembering that, try not to look at the mountain. Sometimes you just have to look at that one step in front of you. Because for me,
Yeah.
if I look at the mountain, I can easily get discouraged because it's too big. I can't
Right.
scale that. But if I can look just directly ahead of me and take one little step, so each Friday is one little step, one little step, one little step, a bunch of little steps. By the time you get to the end, oh, I'm at the top. And now this is a thing that I'm holding in my hand, and I'm on a show talking about it. Like I didn't even think about this part when I was writing the book at all.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that consistency and that discipline, and I'm not going to say don't be afraid, because I think fear can be a motivator sometimes. Instead, I'm going to say don't let your fear paralyze you. That's when I think fear becomes really dangerous. And so tapping into your resources, like Paul said, sometimes maybe writing out your fears can take the power away from your fears. So sit and write down a list of what you're afraid of, and be transparent and honest with yourself about what you're afraid of. And you'll kind of feel like, oh, is that, when you see it on paper, sometimes it's like, is that what I'm afraid of? I could do
Right.
that. You know what I mean? So literally sometimes writing something out can help you write the next thing that you need to write out.
Yeah. Yeah. I happen to talk about that in my book, so no,
I was gonna
shameless
say.
plug there too. But no, but seriously, like giving it a name makes it something you can manage, right? It's the
Exactly.
boogeyman when it's not named, when it doesn't have a
Yeah.
name or a face that terrifies you. So
Yes.
yeah, I absolutely agree. Writing it down and facing it is definitely the way to handle it.
For
My
sure.
copy of your book hasn't come yet. It's on the way, but so I haven't read it yet. Is my point. But I don't know if you talk about this in your book, but I'm a huge fan of journaling. I'm a huge
Yeah,
fan of informal journaling because there's no
yeah,
rules,
Right.
right?
right.
It's just
Yeah.
connecting your brain to your hand. There's no rules. Just get it out there on paper. So for me, that's a huge benefit when with things like writer's block. Like if I ever experience writer's
Yep.
block, I don't stop writing. I
Mm-hmm.
just stop writing that. I'll go
Right.
away from
Right.
that, right? And I'll pick up nothing and write about that. You know what I mean? And it
Yep.
just frees you up. So I love journaling as a strategy for this
Yeah.
kind of thing, for helping you to actualize the writing of your vision. I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, yeah. And the idea came out of what all three of us do is teach writing. And
Right.
so it's really aligning the writing process with this idea of writing your vision for your life. And yeah, absolutely. It's all about that reflective kind of writing. And that's why I say on the back of the book, it's not, you don't have to be a writer to do this. It's not about being a
Exactly.
writer. It's about using writing. So
Exactly.
it's the same tools we give to our student writers to help them, get to that finished product. And so that's the concept. I also love that your book has the theory and practice, because I feel like so many books out there are all theory and they sound great and that, we all know it's true and it's right. And we close the book and we go, now what?
Now what? Exactly. Now what? Yep.
It's like, yes, that person was so right, but I don't
Yep.
know how to do any of that.
Right.
Exactly.
So that practical piece is,
I think it's
you know,
important to keep in mind where God
everything.
is involved. God is unique and he's creative. So the way that he works in your life is not necessarily going to look like the way he's working in somebody else's life.
Yeah.
But just like you're saying, any kind of tiny practical step forward is a great starting point. And I believe when we
Mhm.
take that first step, it's a lot easier, and it may even feel a lot more natural too to take the next steps, because of that like the
Yeah.
very first step for me is always the hardest
Hardest.
step, always.
Yeah.
Once you take
Yes.
that first step, there's a whole world in front of you that you can then explore. So for
Yeah.
sure, I think I consider the practical steps that we have in the book as that little first step. It's not meant to be
Yeah.
the end of the journey. It's meant to be like the very,
Right.
very beginning. And so our hope is that those practical steps will just lead people to just other paths that the Lord has for them. But, at
Mhm.
least start with something small and doable and manageable.
Yeah. I think that's so good. And I can't wait to get my copy of your book as well. Tell everyone how to get their hands on it.
Go.
cpnix.com is our website. We like to say, and it's true, we like to say we are faster than Amazon. So don't go to Amazon to get our book. Go to cpnix.com to get our book. And we also have a bookmark that you could purchase as well to go along with your book.
Good stuff. I'm so proud of you guys and the work that you're doing. I know it's going to be a blessing to so many, and I think it's so needed. And I can't wait to see what you all do next. I'm happy to know there's more things coming down the pike. So
For
we will
sure.
definitely keep an eye out and an ear out for whatever the next thing is. Paul, any closing thoughts before we go to our scripture?
No, well, thanks for having me. I know I'm a special guest because this is really geared
Yeah.
towards women. But I don't take that for granted. I really appreciate you allowing me into your safe space. I will retreat quietly. I didn't hear anything. I didn't see anything. I'm not.
That's right. That's right. What happens on Hey Girl stays on Hey
Thank
Girl.
you.
There you
So
go.
Exactly.
It is.
no, it's just been a joy to have you guys here. I love you both, and I love the work that you're doing. So keep it up, and I'd love to have you back next year with your next book on.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. I like the
whatever
way you think.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, speak that thing into existence, write the vision.
Exactly. Exactly.
So we're going to go to our scripture really quick before we say goodbye to everyone. And it comes from Romans 12, verse 2. Let God change the way you think. Then you will know how to do everything that is good and pleasing to Him. What we've talked about today is shifting our thinking from what we want to what God wants. And that's really what we've been talking about all month. This idea of writing the vision is about getting in alignment with what God has for us. And Claire said it today. It is so much more than what we might imagine, what we can even imagine, if we just are willing to relinquish our will and let the Creator do what He intended to do through us. Remember, we didn't make ourselves, He made us for a purpose. And so when we let go of our own will and our own ideas, it may be a little painful, but it is for a purpose, and one that is so much greater than we could ever imagine. And we will never regret doing His will, the will that He has for us. We will be blessed, others will be blessed, and we can hasten His soon return, which is really what it's all about at the end of the day. Well, this has been a fantastic month. I hope that it has been a blessing for you. I know I have been blessed by each of the guests that have come on. And if you missed any of the episodes, just go back. They're right here on the Facebook page under our playlists. We have them organized by theme. And there's been so much good content that I hope you are taking advantage of. And don't forget to share. Share. Don't hold it to yourself. Don't keep it to yourself. Well, next week is a new month, and we're kicking off a brand new theme. And I am so excited for you to meet my guest for next week. Dr. Valerie Lee will be here, and she is a powerhouse. All month long, we are celebrating Black Girl Magic. That's all I'm going to say about that. You don't want to miss it. So I look forward to seeing you next week. Make sure you're here. In the meantime, God bless.